Hello, my name is Vince Roble. Today I'm doing my presentation for technical reporting. Um, my long report and the presentation today is on the comparative analysis and recommendations to improve the student staff clinical experience in clinical engineering at Gunderson Health Systems. I know it may sound like a lot. There's a little bit of tech jargon here, but I'll do my best to explain it and get through it as easy as I can for you. All right, first to start off, a little bit about myself. I know this display may be hard to see. It is a 50-inch display and it's only 6 feet, but fortunately webcams just aren't what they used to be. So, a little bit about myself. My name is Vince Roble. I'm a biomedical electronics student, biomedical technology here at Western. I interned at Gunderson Health System and the UW Madison system in Madison. I'm also president of our Biomedical Electronics Club. Uh, I have plenty of experience in helping improve these situations, whether it's from my experience at dynamic recycling, and I've also completed lean certification and manufacturing training. Just going to start off with a little bit of the basics about lean. That's lean manufacturing. It all comes down to eliminating waste, or muda is known, the Japanese term for that. There are usually 7 forms of waste. Depending on which model you look at, they may all have a little bit different names, but they all come down to about the same basic principle. You're looking for waste and correction, overproduction, processing, conveyance, inventory, motion, waiting. I know they may sound pretty general, but motion, and for example, would be, motion. You take an extra 5 steps every day to get a tool that could be put 1 foot in front of you. So you're actually, reducing, you're wasting motion when it can be set closer. Inventory, wasting space because of excess inventory or too little inventory, and then you're taking more time. Correction, overproduction, pretty easy. Producing more products than what you need. What happens if you overproduce? Too much left, you have to sell at less, so you're not being as efficient. So those basics, I conducted a student survey. The average student response on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being good, 0 being bad. I asked several areas. The first was how they felt about the training received before working on equipment. Now, this average score came out less than 5. Another one was the variety of equipment they got to work on while they were at the Gunderson system. And that was even under 4. Really good thing, staff availability. Was staff available to answer your questions and be there? Scored real high, which is good. And the staff's been great at Gunderson, as well as unsure of testing procedures. So as they were getting into a unit to test it and make sure that the unit was working properly, a lot of students were unsure of what procedure to actually do to test this unit. A few other questions to identify some areas for improvement or waste at Gunderson were asked students what was the longest time they had to locate a service manual for a piece of equipment before they could work on it. As you can see the examples on the board here, it was nearly almost 1/3 said it was over 5 times that they were unable to locate a manual. Several other ones said, 3 to 5 times I couldn't locate the manual. Almost 50% of the students couldn't locate a manual at least 3 to 5 times while they were in clinicals. This refers to manuals again. This is I asked the students, what's the largest amount of time you ever spent trying to locate a service manual? And you can see some of the things here. Well, nearly 1/3, 27% of students said they spent over 30 minutes looking for a manual. And then another 18% said they searched 20 to 30 minutes looking for a manual. Just those two right there is, what's that, 45% of students, spent over 20 minutes looking for a manual at least once. That shows a waste of motion and time looking for these manuals when there could be a better solution available. Also, students after they couldn't find the manual, spent time online searching for the manual. This has plenty of forms of waste. It could be difficult to find the correct manuals. You know, you have to validate the credibility of the source for the manuals. You know, they might be outdated or incorrect material. Moving on, so I'm going to start with, I made 5 recommendations to help improve this clinical experience at Gunderson. The first would be to designate a daily student-staff liaison. Instead of the students being there free range trying to find one of the staffs or person that isn't busy, if we could designate one person, they could kind of be the go-to person. They might not handle everything, but they could delegate it to the correct person, and it would give students a clear line of command on who they should talk to, instead of they might ask 4 or 5 staff members before they get the answers or the material they're looking for. So just conducting one person, say for the 4 or 5 hours, could operate on a rotation. That could help delegate some of these things, as well as leading into my second recommendation. They might also be a person to help give a 10 to 30 minute, just a short presentation on some different variety of equipment to help expose students to a larger range of equipment. Positives, I just touched on a bunch of those. It would reduce unnecessary staff interruptions, give students a clear chain of command. And the negative is it may be difficult to schedule staff members for assignment, and it might be hard to measure their production on days that they're the staff liaison if one person is. My second recommendation would just be a small daily equipment presentation. Grab a different piece of equipment each week and just talk about it. Maybe go over some of the testing procedures, which will help students be assured more of what they're supposed to do when testing it. Maybe go over some of the common problems with that unit. Say maybe it has a certain air in line sensor error, or maybe it's got a recall that came out, or if there's a certain error that comes up, this is what you do. Just 5-10 minutes discussing some of these things and going over that equipment could go a long way. Again, I just touched on a lot of these positives and negatives here. Provide better customer experience due to the fact that the equipment's being serviced correctly the first time. Increases both student productivity and staff productivity. Some negatives would be that the initial labor cost might be higher due to having to do these presentations, but in the long haul, the overall time spent educating students and answering their questions should be reduced. My third recommendation today is to create a digital service manual database. Basically just a large spreadsheet or program where we can store all of these manuals in a digital format and eliminate all this wasted time of students trying to locate the correct manuals. And it would also be nice if this database could hold some notes, some basic errors or notes just to help guide techs as they do repairs. The positives for this, really reduce the time. It also gives management control of the manual. Say if there's a new recall or an update and that manual has to be changed and updated, you can change it and you maintain control of that in an online database, as you don't have to track down all the old manuals and worry about them being out there with outdated material. Negatives, there's the initial cost and labor to set this database up, as well as the iPad or tablets it would be held on, or workstation, as well as just the upkeep and management of the database. Brings me to my next 2 recommendations are actually quite short and simple. Recommendation number 4 is to purchase an additional testing equipment for Alaris pumps. Basically just giving students their own setup. They wouldn't have to spend time looking for the right equipment and borrowing it from other staff. Staff wouldn't have to track down their equipment that was borrowed by students. It would make both parties more productive. Staff wouldn't have to look for their stuff, students would have it there, and both would be able to produce a lot more repairs and be more productive. Negatives, pretty self-explanatory: cost of the equipment and increased amount of upkeep and calibration of the equipment. Recommendation number 5 kind of fits right into number 4. It would be just an additional computer workstation for students. This could be set up with the Alaris equipment, or it could just be a tower and monitor. Um, some of the positives about this, that would also help increase not just student production, probably increase proper TMS reporting by students, and allow for better record keeping, as more students will have to wait in line to use a computer workstation to input their work for the day. It'll also, negatives, it's going to initial cost and setup of the workstation, as well as upkeep and additional programming. To follow up these recommendations, I asked some students how beneficial the 10 to 40 minute presentation would be, and as you can see up here, that overwhelmingly students thought it would be very beneficial. Just one student thought it would still be a 7, but overwhelming response that would not only help them see more equipment, as well as be more assured when they do their repairs. My second follow-up student survey question is how beneficial would it be to have an iPad, loaded with these service manuals, and have them available for students to look at. Again, it was overwhelmingly responsive. Students thought that would be greatly beneficial to be able to not have to look and locate these manuals on a continuing basis. And my last feedback from the students was how beneficial it would be to have an extra workstation set up with its own equipment for Alaris. And again, this is pretty self-explanatory. Almost all students felt it would be very beneficial to have this extra equipment available and not have to bother staff. And overall, change is good. My goal of this report was just to improve the student staff experience at Gunderson, and I hope that I found solutions that were a win-win for both parties involved. And I think all the recommendations would not take a lot of overall resources and effort, and will go a long way in improving our clinical experience. Thank you.